Okay, welcome back, Duelyst. We've moved on to the round of 8. So anyone who wins here goes through to the semi-finals, and that's already been casted by you. Cast that, right, Blatm?
I did, yeah, with Fate.
So I think the link should be in the description there. Today we've got Abracadani versus Jay. Abracadani on Magma and Abyssian. And Jay on Magma and Abyssian. Let's start with Abracadani first. They've got this Creep Abyss list, and yeah, fairly minion heavy mid-range / late game Magma.
Yeah, so even though the factions for these two players are the same, the decks have some really important differences in them. So Abra is a well-known Magmar player, and this list is really stands out as being very, very, very top-heavy. It's got only 6 2-drops, 3 of which are Kujata, and the top end is, 3 Harvester, 2 Dancing Blades, and then 3 Archon, 3 Elder. So it's super, super, super greedy. And that's completely different from Jay's Magmar list. That is this really unique, very difficult Twin Fang combo deck. But it's also, a control mag deck, but it's also Twin Fang combo. Like, it's really sort of it's such a complicated deck. And so these two Magmar decks are going to be, are going to play very differently and play approach the match along very different axes.
Yeah, their creep decks, however, are not too different. The main difference to me seems to be this Abyssal Juggernaut.
Yeah, absolutely. So Juggernaut, if they end up playing a creep mirror, Juggernaut's going to be really rough because it dies to Nightstar, of course. But the Abracadani creep deck is really trying to generate more creep because of the Juggernaut, and Jay's creep deck is more about sort of controlling the game, buying time with the one Tracer, and saying, I'm just going to sort of win eventually, and the actual Novas don't have to be as impactful.
Yeah, I like a Tracer in this little creep list. By the time you cast your third Nova, it's doing like 12 or 13 damage, and or if all you need to do to be able to cast it is be away from your opponent, then Tracer does that. Pretty sweet.
Yeah. Also, if you have creep on board already, Juggernaut is like an Infinity 5, right? Because if it attacks you, then attacks a minion, then it's going to create a creep tile under it, and then that creep tile is going to do 1 billion damage. So that can be very scary. The other really noteworthy thing about Abracadani's Abyssian deck is that there's no Night Sorrow Assassin, right? That card is extremely powerful. Instead, Abra is playing 3 Repulsor Beasts. So it's much more about the creep game plan and less about just general good stuff than Jay's deck.
Yeah, I didn't even notice it wasn't running Night Sorrow Assassin, because just in my mind, of course you'd run it. I wasn't looking for it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. All right. Well, let's see what happens in the game itself. Let's go.
So Jay is choosing to play the creep deck here. I think in part because if your opponent is playing super, super, super greedy Magmar, you have all the time in the world to just Nova a bunch of times and be like, I'm just gonna win that way. So it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and if they pick the Abyss deck and run the mirror, well, you run the mirror, so about 50-50.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense because you can Night Star the Juggernauts, and the Repulsor Beasts aren't going to be doing a ton in the creep mirror. So Jay's choice, it's tough, and I think that sort of Abra is going to feel a sense of urgency with this deck, which is not something that they really wanted to be feeling with this Magmar deck.
Yeah, they've given the opportunity to themselves to ramp into 6 mana next turn, though, which could spell this Archon Spellbinder.
Yeah, so one thing that Abra is identifying is that Jay's deck has a really, really hard time dealing with Archon. You have to kill it with damage, and is not even clear where that damage is going to be coming from. I mean, you can always lure it away, repulse beast it away, and try and buy some time, but it's that can work, but it's really not ideal. So absolutely, Archon is one of the most important threats that Abra has.
Yeah, and it's going to prompt Jay to take this mana tile, and with the extra mana they got, they're just going to Archon. Sorry, no, they're just going to Ephemeral Shroud and nothing.
Yeah, I mean, this is Jay's deck has a lot of. It doesn't really try to contest the early game that much. I mean, it needs to tread water, but it's playing a lot of flimsy minions, right? 2 Shroud, 3 Blood Tear, 2 Abyssal Crawler. Another version of the creep deck plays like a Rockies or something, and that's much more meaty in the early game. So that's sort of a choice that Jay has made building the deck, and sort of it leads to these turns where you're playing a bunch of random garbage that doesn't do anything, but you also have made your deck such that you don't really care that you're just playing a bunch of random garbage. You're just there, waiting for 7 mana, and you're just gonna Nova them.
Yeah, definitely no rush, and that's why they're backing off, which perhaps it's a bit as a surprise that Abracadani just played the Harvester so far back. I think I probably would have played it forward. Maybe they were hoping that a good natural selection target would come up, but I guess they'll take the consolation prize of flashing out this Archon.
Yeah. Wow. This is a huge deal, actually, because you're kind of giving your opponent a get a jail free card. I mean, here Jay could just like Dancing Blades and punch the Archon, and a card that would normally be very difficult to deal with, suddenly Jay has a way of dealing with it. And
you called it.
The flip side is that you've gotten some face damage in, and Ira's game plan has got to be eventually just to beat them down. But it's it's kind of awkward. You're not really, especially with your Mecanter being terrible here because of the special blade. Like that's tough. So I'm a little surprised by that choice from Abra, honestly.
You say the Mecanter's bad, but I don't think it's insanity just to suicide into the Dancing Blades here. It sort of seems kind of bad, but
yeah, I mean, you sort of have to, right? Like playing an Archon on board is, I mean, you'd have to play it away because probably gets cleared otherwise. And this is a lot of face damage. The timing is pretty good because Jay here would love to, start playing Void Pulses or Rejues or something. But because it's exactly 7 mana, Jay can't do Revenant plus Void Pulse.
Yeah, I was really worried for a second that Jay wasn't going to play around Mecanter, but I knew no more. He knows what's up.
Yeah, I mean, Mecanter is one of the best clears for Revenant. I mean, here, even if you Dancing Blades it, the Dancing Blades is like way too far away, and you're not going to win the game in time. And just based on how Jay is playing, when you look at the turn that was Night Sorrow, Shroud, and then Spectral Blade, float 3 mana, you gotta assume that Jay is holding the 7 drops because he knows that Abra's deck can't realistically put him under so much pressure that he needs more early game cards, and he also knows that he's just gonna need to play a bunch of 7 drops to win the game. So yeah, I'm fully expecting Jay to basically play a 7 drop almost every turn at this point.
This is interesting. Abracadani's turn feels kind of bad, but if he just goes up and hits and plays Mecanter on Jay, he can win next turn.
Yeah, I mean, Vindicator, especially if Vindicated out of Archon, is going to be one of the things that can really be good for, can really scare Jay and be good for Abra. But it's also tough because your life total does matter as Abra. Jay fundamentally just needs to get you really low, and if you have an extra 6 HP, then that's an extra turn, right? So it's a tough decision.
Oh, this Void Pulse.
Yeah, so here we see exactly what Jay wanted, right? 7 drop into Void Pulse. Yeah, I mean, Jay was definitely setting up this hand from many turns ago. You can tell just by how it's playing. So I think it comes as no surprise to Abra either. So because there have been no Abyssal Crawlers yet, Nova here is not so great because it doesn't actually clear the Harvester. And it's hard to actually die as Jay here because because Vindicator Archon is 8 damage. Maybe Abra gets Flash Vindicator Elder, that's 9 damage, but that's not the 10 damage you need to kill Jay with, on top of the Spirit Harvester punch. So.
Yeah, Jay's rattled off a couple of insane turns in a row, which has put Abra in a really bad spot. And he's sort of been, I don't want to say scurrying around, because that does not scurry. But he's definitely had to react to Jay's moves here.
Yeah, even though Jay was obviously stockpiling 7 drops since the beginning of the match, back to back Revenant is kind of lucky. I'm surprised that Jay played into Mechanic here. I mean, it seems like they're valuing not being against the wall, but I'm a little surprised that just would give Abra a nice clear like that.
Yeah, what would you have done instead? Do you play the Healing Mystic near the Revenant so that the Mechanic can't go face, or would you play the Healing Mystic at all?
I mean, I just would have had my general be 1 back so that the Cantor can't hit both the Revenant and the.
Because those are the 2 key targets, really, your general and the Revenant.
Yeah, like this Mystic. I mean, it's playing around natural selection. That's the only thing it's doing. So now Jay has got to be a little bit worried because this is absolutely sort of a part of the game where a Vindicator Archon could just end the game. And Jay has, they just played Void Pulse. This is the second Void Pulse. It's pretty clunky to play a Rejuve at this point. This is scary for Jay. Abra has done a good job finding an opening, and their hand is well suited to executing this game plan that they need to execute. Abra is low themselves, and they're going to have to fly pretty close to the sun if they want a chance of winning this game.
Yeah, it's really rough because you can't just back up and let Jay start casting Shadow Novas, but they're not in a really good position to keep going in either, so it's a tough turn.
So one thing that Abra could do here that's kind of interesting is they could Mecanter the general, the obvious space, but attack the Dancing Blades so that the Mecanter dies, punch the Mystic, and then natural selection the Dancing Blades. And that's really rough because Abra is at 8 and in range of the general, so Jay could walk down, punch face, Void Pulse, Shadow Nova, and that's lethal. But we've seen all 3 Revenants, so just Revenant isn't going to kill you. And you put Jay to 8, he's been through 2 Void Pulses. Vindicator Archon, which you have in hand, is exactly 8. So that's a risky line, but a line that Abra does have available to them to try and win the game.
Yeah, it's a pretty creative line. It might just have given them the best chance of winning, but it's just chosen to summon this Archon here, which definitely isn't bad. Archon stops a lot of spells from, playing in concert with each other. But it doesn't feel like it's putting Jay under a kind of pressure that can end the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's so Jay has been through 2 Dancing Blades, so third Dancing Blades with the Primus Fist to clear is maybe unlikely. And Jay could Nova it, but you want to be Novaing face. I think that strategy as Magmar is a lot more appealing if you're running Earthsteer. But Abra only has the 3 Rejuve, 3 Mystic to heal up. So even if you can bait out Oh, that's really rough. Yeah. Even if you can bait out a Nova on just the 4 HP Archon, it's still unclear whether or not you're going to have enough healing to survive Novas 2 and 3. Though you might. I mean, that's not infinite damage, and you know, I don't think Abra has played a Rejuve yet game, so that could, that makes a lot of sense. As Abra's approach, just saying, hey, if you have to Nova this Archon, then I can survive the next 2 Novas, and then you basically can't win.
Yeah, I didn't notice the player Rejuvenator. Yeah, see the Mercanta climb out to clear the minions, and presumably they're going to play this Vindicator and move it 1 back just to play around Shadow Nova.
Oh yeah, you're right. That Abra did play one Rejuve the turn that they Dancing Blades the first Revenant.
Yeah, so I guess it means that Jay's just going to Shadow Nova this empty spot just to set up the creep for next turn, which kind of suggests to me that he has another Nova in hand and that Abra's maybe just dead.
Well, it's also that, what else are you going to do as Jay? I mean, I think that this Vindicator isn't really threatening because the stuff summoned with it can't actually reach you. The Mercanta can't reach you. You don't really have random dorks you want to play. I think just going face and being like, hey, basically putting Abra in check makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, even if you don't have the next one in hand, it means that when you do draw the next one, it's going to kill them.
That is so gross. Another benefit to that is that if you really have to, once you have 1 Nova down, your second Nova clears Elders, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that Tracer is disgusting.
Yeah, we said it during while we were looking at the deck list. That's what it can do. Just buy you enough time to cast that second Nova or third Nova, and it's night-night.
Yeah, there's a lot of Tracer decks like Spell High or Artifact Vitruvian that aren't really doing much else, and so you have a lot of freedom to play around the Tracer. But against Creep, you really got to have your minions close to your opponent, because you need to win the game quickly, and so Tracer can be a lot more effective than it is in those other archetypes, because you can't really afford to play around it.
Yeah, and it must be at this point in the game where Jay's, he's drawn through most of his deck. He's probably expecting this second Shadow Nova to come in. He's running 3 of them, but
yeah, this is one of the more frustrating things of playing this archetype is sometimes you don't draw your Novas, and then your deck looks really dumb. A Swarm of Elders can absolutely, win the game if left unchecked. Ooh, this is really sick, right? That the Egg Morph is going to give you a Rush Elder. So this is a lot of damage. Abra is finding good ways to push face damage, knowing that at any point Jay can just top deck the second Nova and the game is over.
Yeah,
I mean, Abra would have liked.
It's really important to put a clock on your opponent. You can't give them infinite time. You gotta say, "Hey, draw this now or die."
Yeah, I mean this. Sick egg spawns. But yeah, I mean it's over anyway. But I mean, Abra would have really liked to have drawn this Healing Mystic 1 turn earlier, so you're not just dead to the third Nova. I mean that's kind of unlucky, but yeah, I mean ultimately, good job to Jay. Understood the game plan, understood that the matchup was good for them, and executed very well.